And it appears to be that it's a simple thing. There's no merit to it. On the contrary, in a certain way, there's even more merit to that than a person who sits and studies Torah all day. And that's what the word Yaakov stands for, Yud and Eker. So Yud means we draw down the spintula Yud, which is the part in my neshama, which is able to stand up to all the tests that are out there and be able to stand strong and overcome them, and not only that, but elevate the Gashmizdika world. And now we're up to the part who's going to explain the other name, the name Yisroel. So we are 3 lines from the bottom, page 199. The last word on the line, Avo. That's where we're starting. Avo Yeshvei Oho. Those that their main occupation is studying Torah. Hey, Matamid Chachamim, these are the Torah scholars. She'eskim Tamid B'Torah B'Kviyos. They study Torah. This is a permanent occupation. Thank you. So it's not, remember we said the difference between a tent and a house is a tent is a temporary dwelling place, and a house is a permanent dwelling place. So too, those that are called Yeshvei Oyel means that they're learning Torah is that this is where they are as their occupation, the tent of Torah. And the others are called Bali Asokin. So they're called Yisrael. And their Torah study is called Diras Kva, a permanent dwelling place for Hashem. Because it's not just doing other things in 1 hour a day studying Torah, or even 2 hours a day, but this is the main occupation. Throughout the day, the entire day is Torah study. This is the main occupation. I just want to add that there's also another concept that sometimes it's possible that a person who is a worker, not his occupation, not Torah study, which means that most of the day, let's say from 9 to 5, he's busy at work, and then at night he'll sit down and study Torah for an hour, goes to a class, as a shir, as a chavrusa, and studies for an hour. So that's called something which is not permanent, but it's more temporary, because mainly what he does is something else. This is just something which is the smallest part of the day. However, there's a famous quote in Gemara where it says the Torah was given mainly for those people in that generation that they ate the mun. And of course, the question is, what do you mean? It was given only for that generation? Torah is given for all generations. So obviously it means that true Torah study is when you live the kind of life like the people who ate the mun. What does that mean? People who ate the mun had no other concerns on their mind. They didn't have to worry about food. They didn't have to worry about water. They didn't have to worry about anything else. They didn't have to pay real estate tax. Everything was taken care of for them. And therefore, their concentration on their learning was complete, it was 100%. So the Rebbe explains that a person could be studying Torah an hour a day, or sometimes a half hour a day. So in terms of time on the clock, it's a half hour. But the difference between a person whose occupation is Torah study and a person whose occupation is work is not only in quantity, it's also in quality. That the one who has nothing else on his mind is totally immersed. And the one who does have other things, he can't be totally immersed because all sorts of thoughts swimming in his head. I have to take care of this, I have to take care of that. Tomorrow I have to speak to this one. Did I take care of this other thing? So to a certain extent, it interferes with my concentration. If a person could sit down for a half hour, for 10 minutes, but during these 10 minutes, like nothing else exists, so to a certain extent, his Torah study could also be considered like permanent in a sense, which means at the moment that he's studying, whenever he's there, he's in it completely. But generally speaking, a person who physically is busy learning a whole day, by him it's permanent. Was there with the ksiv, and this explains the pasuk. Vayakom edus b'Yaakov v'seira sam b'Yisrael. So the pasuk in Tilim, we have it back here also, where it says that it's on page 40. Vayakom edus b'Yaakov. We know that the Torah has very different names. One of them is edus, testimony, and one of them is Torah, and one of them is chukim, different names. So here it says, "Vayosam edus b'Yaakov." You established Torah by Yaakov, and you appointed, and you gave Torah to Israel. Basically, the same thing. Now, it's talking about the two types of Jews. There's Yisrael Jews and there's Yaakov Jews. And for one of them, he uses the term edus. The other one uses the term Torah. Torah Atzma, the Torah itself, the Chochmah Ilah, is Hashem's supernal wisdom. Hanikras Eichala Ilah de Kudsha Brichu. This is Hashem's chamber. Torah is something that comes from Hashem's chamber. Sha'eres Sabaruchu Misgala Shabbat Tmidus. What does it mean? It's Hashem's chamber. It's like a person. Person lives in a house, but he also goes outside. He goes to buy something, so he's in a store. He goes to shul to daven. He goes outside to work. He goes to different places. He goes to travel somewhere. But where is his place? Where is he found primarily? What's his home? Is where he lives. Same thing with Hashem. Hashem has a place, so to speak, where he lives. Where is that? That's in Torah. There's actually a story with the Tzemach Tzedek, where a chassid was a true chassid, and throughout his lifetime he had a business, a store, and then he said to himself, enough is enough. Spending so much time on this. His wife agreed that she would run the store, and he should be able to study Torah. So he came to the Tzemach Tzedek that he wants to change what he's doing. His wife will run the business, and he'll study Torah. She's ready to do it willingly and happily. And the Rebbe agrees. So Tzemach Tzedek did not agree. But he asked him a question. There was a certain chassid. He knew who the chassid was. You probably know that years ago, people weren't always called by their last names. They were called by the names of their cities. Like today, you couldn't say Yankel Brooklyner because there are about 1,000 of them. But in those days, they would call by their cities. So this person was called Moshe Moskva, meaning Moshe from Moscow. So he said to him, do you know what he does for a living? He says, yeah. He actually travels to these places. He buys merchandise and then brings it back and he sells it. And he says, you know how long it takes to travel to those places? Oh, it takes about a month to travel there, it takes a month to travel back. How much time does he spend there? He spends X amount of months to travel. Then the Rebbe says to him, so basically it means that 3/4 of the year is outside of Moscow. He's only there 1/4 of the year. So why do they call him Moshe Moskva? He's hardly there. He's outside. They look at the Rebbe like, what kind of question? The Rebbe, he lives in Moscow. The Rebbe said to him, same as you can be running your business, you can be running the store, learning your 1, 2, 3 hours a day. But if that's where you live, so that's where you live. That's the difference. That's permanency. So the Eibishter, where does he live? He lives in the Torah. The Torah is his chamber. So that means that the word, this is alluding to the fact that it's something permanent. Avo, thank you. Eidus eina elarak ha'arim mepchinas chochmei lo nimshach b'Yaakov. When he uses the term testimony, that's not the essence of Hashem. That's like a reflection of Hashem, a reflection of Hashem's wisdom. And that's why we use the name Yaakov. What's the connection? So it's explained in other Maimarim. It doesn't explain it here, but explained in other Maimarim. When you say that there's edus means testifying that something happened. So I'm testifying that something else happened, which means the thing that happened is not what I'm saying now in the courtroom. But what I'm saying in the courtroom is to confirm or to endorse or to notify that this indeed did happen. So my words are not the essence of what we're talking about. It's only revealing what we're talking about. So that's why edus is used as a metaphor when there's something which is a reflection of something else. It's not the essence of the thing itself. We use the term edus. So therefore, when Torah study is being studied in the way of permanency, we use the term as in the pasuk Torah, because that's Hashem's chamber, where Hashem sort of lives there. And when we use the term edus, edus means learning Torah in a way that it's a reflection of the essence. When is that? These are when people learn Torah in a way that it's something temporary. And that is now the meaning of the pasuk. How good are your tents, Yaakov? The older Yaakov him Tovim. That the tents of Yaakov are good. This is like the quote, Ein Tov Ela Torah. If it says good, it's usually alluding to Torah. So the tents are good, which means the Yidden studied Torah in a maybe not a permanent way, but in a temporary way, but still it's Torah. But when people study Torah in a way that this is their main occupation, then Mishkan is Yisrael, then it's called Yisrael, which is the higher name, and that's much higher because that's Diras Kva. That's a permanent kind of studying Torah. That's why the pasuk separates these two things and divides them into two categories. Because that was the question in the beginning, when it says your tents are good, and it says Hashem dwells there, isn't that the same? So the answer is, generally speaking, it's the same. It's about Torah study. But in one case, Hashem's presence is there in a permanent way. And the other one, Hashem's presence is there in a temporary way. So it's like a person who lives in his house or a person who's traveling. So he's also there, but that's not his place. That's not where he is in a permanent way. Like, for example, in Halacha, if a person lives in America and travels to Israel, and it's Yontif. And in Israel, everybody keeps 1 day Yontif, and we in America keep 2 days Yontif. So when I travel, do I keep 1 day or 2 days? Why? What?
You're from here.
Because I'm from here, and even though I'm in Israel, physically I'm there, but I'm not there as a resident. In fact, if you do go there as a resident, the halacha changes. Or if you're going to be there for more than a year, the halacha will change. Or there's other details. Sometimes it says if people travel with their family, they're considered more. Again, that would mean that even though I'm going for a month or for 3 weeks, but because I'm going under these circumstances, I become a resident. But that's what it means. I can be physically in the place. My body is there. Everything is there. But I'm not considered a resident in the place. So this is the difference. That Yisrael is someone whose residence is in Torah. And Yaakov is someone that he has it's a tent. And not his residence is in it. However, this difference between the two, yeah.
So when it says how good we and
Even though we use the word tent, but
well, and so that's when you're studying, even for your analogy, even if you're working, but when you study for that 30 minutes or 2 hours, you're so in it. Is that concept?
no, I added that on the side.
Okay.
The main emphasis is the word Yaakov.
Okay.
And Yaakov implied, because I know it's confusing, because we're saying using the word tent, using tent as something which is temporary. But generally speaking, it means that a person's main occupation is something else, but they're finding time to also study Torah. So the Torah is like also.
And then the dwelling part in that.
And that's Yisrael. These are people who they're immersed totally into Torah study. They don't have other responsibilities and other concerns. And what I added was that it's brought down in other sikhs that if a person is physically and technically a person who works all day, nevertheless, they could be studying Torah like the other person, even though time-wise it's only an hour a day, but mind-wise, their mind set is like a person who studies Torah all day, because that time that he's there completely. However, Kol Zeho Baveda the Seder V'Hadroga. This is when things are regular, normal, and some people serve Hashem one way, some people serve Hashem another way, and there are all these differences. Yesh chiluk madregas elyon v'tachton. So some are occupied with a higher level of Torah study, and there are others that are occupied with a lower level of Torah study. Each one has their advantage. But when we're talking about in the time of Golos, and what's going on is that there are many tests, we're being tested. And we have to elevate the spark and in Sion. And what's required of us is Mesiras Nefesh. Yaakov, the tents of Yaakov are just like Mishkan Yisrael. In other words, in ordinary time, there are differences, but there's a certain time where everybody's required to, in a sense, to do the same thing, to bring out the deepest strength of their neshama and to stand up against the forces that are trying to stop us from learning. When no one's stopping us from learning, then you have two kinds of people. Some are learning like this and some are learning like that. But when we have a force and a government that's trying to close down the yeshiva and close down Torah study, we have to fight it. So in a sense, everybody's avodah becomes the same. It's all about revealing the essence of the neshama that has that unlimited strength, and that's a strength that cannot be weakened to help overcome that in the soil. That's what he's saying. And then all the Yaakov him k'may Mishkan Yisrael. Then they're sort of all united. Whether it's the tents of Yaakov, which is temporary, whether it's Mishkan Yisrael, which is the permanent one, it's all together. And that's what it means by Tovu Alecha Yaakov. Let me explain this word ma. The word mat, the pasuk begins with ma tovu alecha Yaakov, how good. In Chassidus, it also says that the word ma represents bittul. What's the connection? It's based on a pasuk in Chumash, where it talks about the Yidden started to complain to Moshe, and that we don't have this, we don't have drinks, we don't have water, we don't have that. And Moshe says to the Yidden that Hashem is the one that's providing, he's the one that's leading you. And who are we? These are his words. Anachnu ma, me and my brother Aaron that you're complaining to, we're nothing, we're just Hashem's agents. So the word ma in this context means, what are we? Meaning to say, we're nothing, we're just Hashem's agents. We have no power to do anything on our own. So therefore the word ma comes to represent bittul. When it comes to setting up to a test, what we need more than anything else is this bittul. To awaken that pintel yid, to stand up to the test. In other words, to recognize that, yes, I, as a person, as strong as I am, as smart as I am, but these tests are very difficult. And the only way that I can stand up to the test is by sort of surrendering to my etzem, to my yechida, and let it take over. And with that strength is the person who has bittul, doesn't rely on their own personal strength, which means my understanding, my feelings, and no matter how rich I am in Torah study or other things, it's still not enough to overcome an asayin. Overcoming an asayin, it's all about to being forceful and being very strong, and that strength comes from the essence of the neshama. And for that, it requires bittul. I should recognize that, and that it's not my own strength, it's the strength of my neshama. And with that, I can overcome the test. And that's what it means, that when these circumstances come up, whether it's people who are learning Torah in a temporary way or people learning Torah in the permanent way, it's all good. And the avodah of both parties is supposed to be with bittul, and to allow the essence of the neshama to surface. And with that koyach, we can overcome the test. What did Bilam want? Bilam, who was this person who wanted to curse, he was a sorcerer and he was a klipa. In fact, it says that he was a klipa that corresponded to the level of Moshe. In other words, Moshe Rabbeinu, on the other side of the coin, would be Bilam. Because in the world of klipa, he was sort of equal to Moshe, but in the negative, in the impure world. So he wanted to curse the Yidden, and the Eibishter switched it around, turned it around, and turned his curse into a bracha. She'ebotek nesis, ebotek midrashas, hashras hashchina b'Yisrael, v'hainu d'anhagam Yisrael, l'mayla min hateva. That means that the Eibishter says that his way of leading the Jewish people is above nature. And basically, that's what happened here. Here was a person who was very powerful. According to the natural powers, he had the power to curse, opened up his mouth. But what happened was that something above nature took over. And instead of things coming out of his mouth, which he wanted to say, what came out of his mouth was the brachas. And that's what we mean when we say Hashem Nisi. And not just Hashem Havaya. Havaya is the name of Hashem that's above nature. By elevating the sparks and the nisyonis in Havayu and Shalonu. Havaya is our nes, which means that the word nes, remember we said it means something that's high and everybody could see. In other words, that Havaya would be revealed. She is Gala Ha'emes, that the truth will be revealed. V'hakol Yakiru, and the whole world should recognize that Teva Atzma Hu Elokuz, that nature itself is godliness. It's not that there's two things, there's godliness and there's nature, and one could overpower the other, but the essence of nature is really Hashem, because doing, just like we learned about the constellations and the sun and the moon and the malachim, the angels, they all are just tools through which Hashem operates. Same thing with all the laws of nature are just tools, and therefore Hashem performs miracles for us, which are above nature, and that gives us strength to stand up to all this. So I guess most of the time that people are afraid of something is because they're making the judgment and an assessment according to the natural order. Like I mentioned the other day, that here when the new mayor of the city was elected, everybody's panicking because according to nature, someone like that gets into power, then we expect these and these results. But if we have bitachon and Hashem who's above nature, then the results don't have to be that. On the contrary, Hashem could turn everything around, which means not only that through him, nobody will be harmed, but the opposite, through him, even greater benefit will come to the Yidden. How? Can't reveal everything, as you know, so I can't tell you now yet. But when it happens, I will be able to tell you. If we pay attention to davening, there's a part in davening, the Shemona Esrei is divided into 3 parts. In fact, every Shemona Esrei, the one for Shabbos, and the one for the end of the week, the one for Yom Tov, there's the beginning, there's the middle, and there's the end. The beginning is always the same. These are Baruch Atah Hashem, Elokeinu, Elokei Raseinu. So the Gemara says that's when you go to a king, first you verbalize and you declare the greatness of the king. That's the respectful way to approach the king. So that's the first 3 blessings talking about Hashem's greatness. The last part of davening is thanking Hashem for everything in the past. And the middle part of the davening is requesting of Hashem for the future that everything should be good. So the last part of davening, starting from Modim, is really thanking Hashem for the bracha that we have. But if you look closely at the words, it says there, we're thanking you, Hashem, for all the miracles that you perform for us on a daily basis. Everybody see miracles on a daily basis? But that's what we say in davening. And if we pay attention, we can see those miracles. But of course, most of the time, we're not even aware of what the miracles are. No, we don't know what could have happened, what should have happened, what was meant to happen, and Hashem made that it shouldn't happen because we are above nature. Like there's a chapter in Tanya where the Alter Rebbe talks about tzedakah. The fourth volume of Tanya is primarily about tzedakah. But the Alter Rebbe talks about giving tzedakah bezrizos, which means don't delay it, don't procrastinate, give it as early as possible. First of all, any good thing that needs to be done should be done bezrizos, which means to do it at the first earliest opportunity, not to push it off. But specifically tzedakah. Why? The Alter Rebbe says because tzedakah has a tremendous power, more than any other mitzvah, to protect us. We have no idea what's going on in Shemayim. We have no idea what's meant to happen. And therefore, who knows, if I decide to give tzedakah on Thursday, when I can really give tzedakah on Monday, the fact that I waited till Thursday could make the whole difference. Had I given it on Monday, I could have prevented things from happening on Tuesday. If I give it on Thursday, I missed that vote. Like the story we told in the festival of Akiva's daughter, that at the night of her wedding, she did tzedakah, and therefore her life was saved from that poisonous snake. But had she said to herself, I'll take care of these poor people tomorrow, it wouldn't have made any difference. But here's an example where there was a miracle, and had this person not requested to search her house and find out there was a snake there, no one would even know that this was a miracle. Yeah.
But a miracle, you said, is something that takes place outside nature, and all of these are taking place inside nature. It's within the realm of nature. It's not like Chris Yam said, where it's like literally.
Right, but it's true, but it's still considered a miracle because it means naturally this should have been the result. I once saw an article as an example where they take MRIs, X-rays of people, and they sometimes find a certain scar which indicated there was a big problem there, and somehow or other, without anyone even knowing about it, it came and it went. But they see what's left from it, that there must have been a time where this person and his lungs suffered from this or something else. So what happened? Means something went wrong. It should have led to, God forbid, things getting worse. And Hashem did something without any treatment, without any medicine, it disappeared. So the doctors will say, tell us, what did you eat? Maybe the food you ate was very healthy. What vitamins did you take? They're trying to figure out, what did you do that made it go away? But not necessarily was what the person did. It could be something that Hashem did. Mamar Mah Tovu.
Hashem put the scar there in the first place. So he is nature. Like the nature wouldn't.
Right, but the fact that if there's God forbid a certain disease and it disappears without medication, without treatment, without anything, that's a miracle. So things were there because it was meant to be, that was the decree supposed to happen. And then the person could be did a certain mitzvah or whatever, without even realizing Hashem changed the natural order, that those things that could have happened don't happen. Sometimes we find out about, sometimes we don't. Yeah.
It's not okay to see everything as a miracle.
What?
It's not okay to see everything as a miracle. Like, I don't know, Ivan working, or even in nature, like, I don't know, the leaves changing color. Like, I don't know, I see everything as like thinking like Baruch Hashem.
It's true. Yes.
It's not okay.
It is okay. Yeah. That's what all the brachas are. That's what makes brachas in the morning. Thank you, Hashem, that I could see. Thank you, Hashem, that I could walk. Thank you, Hashem, that I could bend. Thank you, Hashem, that I have clothes. Thank you, Hashem, that I have shoes. We're thanking Hashem for all the things that we have. Okay. Before we go to the next part, which is a mimer from the Rebbe Rashab, that explains what we just said further, we need to review this and review it like with the workbook that we have, which means to go over the questions and to go over the terms. So I think we'll start with the questions. And the only thing is like this, I really would have liked to do it as we're going along, but I couldn't contain myself. I said, let's do another piece, let's do another piece. So let's go backwards now, it'll be easier. We just did Vav, so let's take page 24 here and do Vav. If you're wondering why the pages are numbered in such a strange way, 24, there aren't even 24 sheets here. So it's not something which is Kabbalistic. It's very simple. This used to be part of a different booklet. And just was too much of a bother to change the numbers. Okay, so let's do number one. Let's do it together. Instead of we do it each piece separately, we can spend more time, but right now I think we'll just do it together. What's the answer to number one? What is the difference between Mishkan Secha Yisrael and Ola Yaakov, based on what we just learned? Everybody knows that answer.
Well, firstly, it's temporary.
Right. I once heard a recording with Rebbe's Fabrenyan. He finishes speaking. This is the early years. And then the Rebbe says, why doesn't anybody start a niggin? And the Rebbe says, I guess I have to speak, I have to sing. Soon I'll say Shalom Aleichem to myself, and then I'll say Aleichem Shalom to myself.
Rabbi said this?
Yeah. Later, they made a certain, order who's in charge of starting the nigunim. But in the beginning, wasn't anybody in charge, so everybody's waiting for everybody else. I said eventually I have to say a Shalom Aleichem to myself, and I'll answer myself Aleichem Shalom. What is the difference between Mishkan Secha Yisrael and Ola Yaakov? Right. Number two, which is higher, Yesh Ve'oil or Bali Asakim? The most famous word in Chassidus is, it depends. There's two ways to look at it, not three. So in some ways, Yesh Ve'oil are higher. Those who study Torah all day. In some ways, Balei Asakim are higher, what are some ways? In what way is the worker higher than the one that's learning all day?
You have to make time to study Torah. I thought that it won't complicate either for like it's 10 minutes. That's without the department.
Okay. These are both things that I said in class, right? But they were not from the Maimer itself. So they're both true. But in the Maimer itself, it brings out the point that those who are Bali Asakim, they elevate the lower place of the world, the working part of the world, the Gashmitic part of the world. Those who study Torah, I'll throw in another thing, because of the question that Shirley asked. It's brought down in my Marim that I spoke about this times, that the people who are in the working world, they see Hashgacha Prati is much more than those who are learning all day. Those who are learning all day, you're learning. But you are out there in the world, there's always something happening where you can say, wow, that is Hashgacha Pratis. You have a business, Hashem sent this customer. This door closed, but then another door opened. I didn't expect that to happen. Look what happened here. What could have happened? What should have happened? We're always seeing, especially if we're paying attention, we'll see Hashgacha Pratis. And that's a tremendous advantage. And what's the advantage of those that learn Torah all day? The fact that they're learning Torah all day. The fact that learning Torah all day, number one, quantity-wise, they're spending more time studying Torah. And quality-wise, the Torah study is with more concentration. Why, in the time of Golus, is the Avodah both equal? Like, what is it that at that time, everything sort of comes together? Maybe this part is not so clear, so I'll just explain it again. It means that when the time of Golus, let's say, referring to the time in Russia, when they were standing up to the communists and the Jewish communists, and they had to keep yeshivas, open underground, and have Mesiras Nefesh. In that situation, it didn't make that much of a difference whether you're learning Torah a lot of hours or Torah less hours. At that time, the call of the hour was Mesiras Nefesh, to stand up and not to allow them to close down Yiddishkeit and have the Mesiras Nefesh, which comes from the essence of the soul. In normal times, these things are measured differently, but in these circumstances, the call of the hour was Mesiras Nefesh, and that's what counts more than anything else. Then we go back one page to Ois Hey. Question number one: what must a person wake up within themselves to overcome an assignment? What? The Yechidah, right? The Pintel Yid. In the case of an assignment, how does a person handle the questions that come up, the challenging questions? You're right, it wasn't phrased well, but it means questions which come up whether or not I should do this thing or not do these things. In other words, all sorts of arguments that maybe it's okay to not make the bracha, maybe it's okay not to keep kosher right now, maybe it's okay not to do this mitzvah.
What does Hashem want?
So I'm answering myself, what does Hashem want from me? Anything more specific? So in this chapter, the main point he brought out was that an assignment is not something that we have any dialogue in our head altogether. We just ignore the questions. We just know it's really what you said. What does Hashem want from me? Hashem wants me to daven. He wants me to learn. He wants me to make brachas. He wants me to eat kosher. He wants me to act in this way. That's what I'm going to do, and not to answer questions. But maybe this is different, or why do you need it, or this or that. Just do it, and when you do it, and then these are the two things. In the previous chapter, it brings out the idea: don't give any substance to the test, to the opposing force. And in this place, it brings up the idea that don't even allow a dialogue in your head, like asking the question and giving yourself an answer. Just, I have to do what Hashem told me to do. A short story happened with the Rebbe. As you know, that throughout the years, there was always the two camps, the Hasidim and the Lithuanian Jews, and there was an opposition, they were against Hasidim. One of the biggest part of their arguments was that the Hasidim, they only study Hasidus. They don't know any Talmud, they don't know Halacha. It's all fabricated stories, but that's how they convince themselves that it's something wrong with Hasidus. The previous Rebbe once sent our Rebbe, before he became Rebbe, that he should go visit one of the greatest sages in the Lithuanian world. And there was something that he had to tell him. When he went there, and people heard this is the son-in-law of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and he was in a yeshiva, he had a yeshiva. So the people of the yeshiva started to talk to him. They figured the Lubavitcher Rebbe's son-in-law, he must be a great Torah scholar, and started asking him questions. The Rebbe didn't answer anybody anything. What do you think the reaction was? Oh yeah, the Lubavitchers, they don't really know much Torah. They just know Chassidus, and that's all. Then he went into this rabbi's room, spoke to him. When he came out, he met those people again, and he started to explain them things. When he explained them things, they were so blown away that the end result was that Rosh Yeshiva was begging the Rebbe, maybe he would stay with him and be part of his yeshiva, because he saw the potential that he could be like one of the greatest leaders in the world. So the Rebbe didn't stay with him, but they asked the Rebbe, why did you do that? When you didn't answer them in the first place, it sort of made a bad impression about Chabad. So I know you were very much into Chabad should be honored, and here, by not answering them, it made a bad impression. The Rebbe answered, the previous Rebbe sent me on a shlichus. My shlichus was to go into this rabbi and speak to him and give over a certain message. Until I did that shlichus, nothing else exists. That's what I have to do. Which means even the reasoning, maybe I should do it because it'll make a bad impression. Even that didn't come in consideration. This is what I have to do, and there's nothing else that's going to stop me. So a lot of times when a sign comes up, the Yitzhar doesn't come along and say, just do an Avera. He's very smart. It comes along with good reasons, good explanations. Why it's better for Hashem if you're going to do this or that or the other thing. Or you won't do it. It's going to make Yiddishkeit better. He has all sorts of ways of explaining things. Brilliant. So when I answer him, he's going to give me another answer. And I give an answer to the answer, he'll give me another answer. So that's why I said, I'm saying, forget the dialogue. Just do what you have to do. Okay, that's luck, Rabbi, everybody. Continue. If anyone has any free time and looking for what to do, you can finish the question. So when we do it tomorrow.